It's that time of year that we're going to start adding a lot of plants in our garden. And I know we add a lot of vegetable gardens, but don't forget to add some fruit as well. A lot of times we talk about different fruit trees and things like that that you can add in the garden, but today we're going to talk about blueberry bushes. Now typically blueberry bushes need an amended soil because they prefer a pH around 4.5 to 5.5. But we've got an option for you in case you don't want to go through the hassle of really changing your soil pH. Try growing them in a container. So today we've got a container here that we're going to plant a dwarf blueberry called jelly bean in. We just need a small container because it's only going to get to be about 1 foot to 2 feet. But in order to get it growing properly, we want to make sure to give it the right environment. So we're going to start out with potting soil. Just regular potting soil that you would get, but to that we're going to add about 50% of that volume in peat moss. And so we've got our peat here. You can see we've got to break it up a little bit. So this peat is going to help lower that pH and really get it to be a better environment for our blueberry to grow in. So now that you have your soil good and mixed, we're going to go ahead and start adding some of that into the container that we want to plant our blueberry in. And usually it's best just to go ahead and fill it half full so that you have room to work with as you're putting the plant in there and to spread those roots out. So again, we're going to pull out our plant here. And this is called jelly bean is the variety. So it's only going to get to be about 2 feet tall. So it's really intended for patio cultivation. You can see we've got it well watered actually, so that we can, hasn't dried out or anything. So we're going to spread those roots out. Looks like I need to add a little bit more soil here. Now when you're planting something, you want to consider the height at where you want that final plant to be. And so typically in a container, you don't want to fill this container completely full of soil because as we water it, it would wash that soil away. So we want to be just a few inches below the actual rim of the container. And the plant should be at that depth that it was naturally in. So you can see where the root ball begins. Is right there, and so we're going to make sure that that soil does not bury up above on those stems. So we've got our plant there in the center. It's got plenty of environment for it to grow, plenty of rooting space, and it's going to have a lower pH because of that peat that we've added. So now we can just plant it in a location where it's going to get plenty of sun and start to thrive. Now we also have another one behind us here. And this variety is not necessarily adapted for patios, so it's going to be a little bit bigger, but you can see we have a much larger container. So you can even use blueberries that aren't necessarily suited for containers as long as you have a big enough space. But still, amending a container like this is better than amending your whole garden at a lower pH. So at this point, we have got them planted, and we're not going to worry too much about fertilizing just yet. We're going to go ahead and allow those roots to get established before we fertilize. Now you can just side dress with urea if you want, or you can get more of an acidic fertilizer, something that's for maybe azaleas or rhododendrons. That will also work because they tend to have a little bit of sulfur, so again, that's going to help lower that pH in your soil. So we're not going to fertilize just yet, but we do want to go ahead and water these. Even though they're going to be hooked up to irrigation, we want to make sure that those roots have good contact with that new soil that they're being put in. So we're going to go ahead and water them. And then at this point, we're just going to wait. Now, after your first season of planting these, we're not too concerned about getting any blueberries off of these. In fact, we really just want to get that plant established. So we're going to go ahead and pick any flowers off that we might see, just so it doesn't spend that energy into producing a berry and spends that energy in building those roots. After you have your blueberries watered in, then they're ready to continue growing. This is a really easy way to incorporate blueberries that need a low pH without adjusting all of your garden soil.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.